Hi, it's the ReBrainer Trainer back with you again today. This is my second video. I shot my first inaugural video yesterday. I guess overall I was pretty happy with it considering I'm an amateur, so yeah, I'm satisfied, and hopefully this will have some durability and an ability for you to be able to use some of the stuff that's coming out of here. So again, I'm going to have a blog, and it's at http / however that goes, no www, and then it's rebrainer.blogspot.com. I'll take your emails at rebrainer@gmail.com, but rather than try to answer them individually, I'm probably just going to incorporate your questions and that into future videos and or answers on my blog. And then finally, obviously I have the ReBrainer Trainer videos here on YouTube. So that's kind of the background, how I got into this. Why I'm interested in brain cognitive therapy is because a relative of mine suffered from this as a young child, and the school system did a very poor job of handling it. I'm now dealing with an elder who is had a stroke or a couple of strokes, and I'm going to try and convince this individual to undergo some sort of cognitive therapy to recover their memories and their mental acuity and that sort of thing. This approach has a lot of promise. It is proven successful in many cases where it's been used. It is being used more and more. There is a much wider number of companies trying to take advantage of this modern technology, I'll say that, rather than sort of the old Sylvan model for kids with learning disabilities. And I might talk a lot about kids with learning disabilities, but what I really mean is anybody with a cognitive impairment. So that can be somebody who used drugs, has a stroke, brain injury, or whatever. So don't take the term learning disability just to be solely, kids with learning disabilities. What I mean is anybody who has some sort of learning problem or cognitive impairment. It's futzing around with their thinking in some way. So that's that. What I just wanted to get onto here is a little bit of background in relation to what is a learning disability. One official definition, according to a Learning Disability Association, is 354 words long, so I'm not going to go through all of it, but what they talk about is learning disorders affecting people who demonstrate an otherwise at least average abilities essential for thinking and or reasoning. As such, learning disabilities are distinct from global intellectual deficit. Well, I don't think they're so different in my own point of view. I think they are one of a spectrum. Global intellectual deficit is simply learning disabilities that, rather than all being up here, on average, right, they're all really low. Okay, that's a global intellectual deficit. Person with learning disability, they might have one up here, high, the next one's low, this one's average, and so forth, right? So if you segregate it into, 50 or 100 or 5 or 10, whatever number, however broad you want to sort of sort the categories, a person with global intellectual deficit is just generally weak everywhere, just practically everywhere. Whereas a person with learning disabilities has some areas of strength, but more areas of weakness compared to average. So that's kind of their deficit and their definition. They talk about some of these learning disabilities are results from impairments in one or more processes relating to perceiving, thinking, remembering, or learning. These are not limited to language processing, phonological processing. So in other words, you see some letters on a page and your ability to decode that, read that. Visual spatial processing, that's the ability to turn things around in your mind, turn them upside down, maneuver things around, right? It can actually be involved in simply walking and judging where your body space is. So that's part of it too. Processing speed, memory and attention, executive functions. They say that learning disabilities can interfere with the acquisition or development of these certain specific things: oral language, reading, written language, mathematics. Learning disabilities also involve difficulties with organizational skills, and I've seen that a lot working with some of these kids, is that they seem to be very disorganized on the whole. Social perception, social interaction, and perspective taking, right? So they lack some apparent social skills. They have problems because of some of these deficits. They can't quite figure out where to act in the panoply of life You know, they just don't know what's appropriate. They say they're lifelong according to this definition, and I think that's entirely wrong and makes someone very disheartened about the future. They go on to talk about other things, blah blah blah. For success, individuals with learning disabilities require early identification and timely specialized assessments and interventions involving the home, school, community, workplace settings. Well, I can tell you, as someone who's been through this, it's all expensive and it doesn't do much good. So don't, my advice to you would be, bothering with the conventional route probably isn't going to get you a whole lot of places that you really want to go, which is, tackling the problem at the root, right? Which is kind of cognitive physiotherapy. Their brain functions down here somewhere. You need to build it up to be there where the average is. And you don't do that by working on tutoring on an academic level. Anyway, the definition goes on here to say that in order to be appropriate, some of these interventions might be considered specific skill instruction, accommodations, compensatory strategies, and self-advocacy skills. Okay, nowhere in here is talking about actually, changing your brain, right, through hard cognitive exercise. And there's, a growing body of support around this whole notion that it can be changed in the same way physiotherapy changes your body after an injury. And, to think that the parallels with physiotherapy aren't that hard. 50 years ago, if you were a pregnant mother, once you gave birth to your baby, it was 2 weeks of bed rest sort of thing. And now they toss you out of the hospital. It seems almost too fast. But the point is they get your body moving again, and they get you mobile as quickly as possible, and that all helps. So that's their kind of definition and what they talk about. I think it's a fine definition. It's way too long. My definition would be any cognitive problem that affects a normal ability to learn. That's a learning disability. So whether that's achieved, whether that learning disabilities happen via stroke, via prior drug use, that's just, the skill set you were born with or your kid was born with or whatever, that's just the way it is. So we're going to be touching on some of the research around it. Specifically, we'll be looking at some of the various programs that are out there, computer programs, and also some of the different things that you can make yourself and work with your kid. If your kid, and I presume that's going to be my largest audience, but if your kid has problems and they're quite severe, that you're actually maybe homeschooling them or whatever, this approach is probably going to have a lot of ability to change their lives if you undertake it. And I will, endeavor to help you understand what you need to do and some of the different things you can create yourself aside from computer programs. So my whole deal is a lot of things can be done on a dime or on a budget, a small budget. And I don't like the idea of, having to spend 5 or 10 or 15 grand to do these things when you can do it yourself. So sometimes it involves work, but, life is time or money, right? And sometimes not all of us have all the money we want, so we have to put time into things. And that's great in a way, because you get to learn about something else and you get to actually really dig in and affect change in somebody else's life, whether that's an elder, your kid, yourself. Maybe you're drug impaired or whatever, or you simply want to be a high performer in life. All this type of training will help you. So that's about all for today. I'm signing off, and good luck and good thinking.